Hey, this is Hans from Request for Music, and this time I'll be focusing on my time module that should appear in the bundle any minute now. So if I go down and take my time module in, you'll see that while I'm dragging it on, the time is still at 0, 0, 0, but as soon as I let go of it, it takes your local time and puts that on top. So I found it not because I have to, but just because I can. So I just put the time in there, so you have your time to watch. Um, Underneath, there's 3 sections. Each of those sections has a minute, second, and a millisec knob with which you can set the number of minutes from 0 up to 59 if you wanted to. The number of seconds up to from 0 to 59, and the millisec up from 50 milliseconds up to 1000 milliseconds being a second there. So that's the same setting for all of these, and apart from that, there's a gate setting that you can set from 0,01 up to 0,95, which is actually the percentage of the time of the amount that you've set here as being a gate. So what does it mean? I can actually take a gate out, for instance, for the seconds to put into, let's say, my perc module that I have. So let's just hook those up. I'm going to put my time into my perc module, and well, the simplest version would be just put a time in there. When there's set at 0, there will be no output, so there's no gate coming out. But as soon as I set it to 1, for instance, it'll just sync to that time that is set, and it'll send you a gate every second. So now if I take this out and put that into my input for the main out, you'll hear that kick drum. Well, let's say that I wanted all of the 3 percussion instruments that I have available. I want to hear all of them. Then I think it's nicest to pan them over the stereo field. So I'll take my panner out, and I'll take my reverb out, because that's a stereo module that I can put it into, and then the stereo module hooks up to the main out. So I'll hook these up, so this one and that one to the reverb, the panner left and the right output into the left and the right input of the reverb, and I'll take this and put it into my panner, my first channel, and take the left output and the right output up to my reverb. So when I'll dial this up, we got something like this. So at least I've got some reverb, some room to work in, and so this is getting it every second. Let's say that I wanted the hi-hat. I want to use this as a hi-hat and put this into the gate. It's going to take a gate of that, and I'll put that in the third one. This is at 121 at the moment, so let's just set this at 500 milliseconds. It might be that it's off the first time that you try it, because the millisecond is, there's nothing in the module that I can use, or in the code that I can use to simplify syncing it to the time. But as soon as you've saved this once, so if I save this in my F SYN collection and into my time categories, and I'll just call this demo 01 for now. If I save this and go back by going forward to another patch and going back to this, then it's sort of reset and make sure that it's at the same time, as you can hear. So now I've got that hi-hat running at the same time in half a second at the moment. And obviously I can take this all the settings for my percussion instrument to set the frequency of that, set a wave. So in this case, but it also depends on the amount of noise that is in there, I can put something like that in there. So that will work definitely, and I could use it like that, and maybe take another one, because the only other section or the other setting that I have within this section is using the another one to put the percussion in, but to make sure that I can use the same settings as I have for the kick, but delay it, because this is set at 1 second. Obviously I have all of those other modules as well. I have this pause module which I could actually use to use the same trigger that I use for the kick. So I'll take this out into my pause module, set that to comma 5, which would be half a second, and take this out into the to the next one to drive that. So I'll take this, and now I've got my perfectly synced sort of the drumish kind of thing. Take this back a notch for the so that's the easiest way of working with the module. And as said, you could easily take one of those other ones, say that I wanted every so because now this is doing this every second, right? So it's on every first second, and on every half a second after that the this is, or the snare is gated. But say that I wanted the next, some kind of effect sound that is started every, what shall we say, 4 seconds. I could actually, I'll move these over a bit and take, for instance, a noise or something out. So let's see, where have I got my noise? I'll put my noise in here, and I'm going to put that in between because I want my penor and reverb, which are the end of my chain. I want those to go on the outside, but I'll do that shortly. So I'll take my noise, and I need a next ADSR because I want to put it into a filter, and I want to do something there. So let's take a filter out. So okay, and I'll put those noise ADSR and VCF before the panner, so I can put the output of that there. And I'll take my gate signal out of the second time module, or the second time section, so to speak. I'll take my noise into the filter, and I'll take the envelope out of this, and do something like this, maybe make it a long sort of sweepy kind of thing, and put this into here. And as soon as I start setting this, and I set 4 seconds, I think. So here it is now going to do that every 4 seconds, and obviously it could do lots of stuff here if I wanted to change this kind of sound by, for instance, using an LFO on the timbre modulation or something like that. I could obviously take that in and put a sine wave into this, take this up a notch. I'll save it as a demo if you need it. So yeah, that's the basic kind of thing that you could do with this. And obviously that also means that I'm now doing it at 1 second. So let's take it at 2. You can easily change the sort of the tempo of this. This will be a bit harder again to sync, maybe it's not so bad now because I had it already synced together. Otherwise, as said, just save it once and then go back into the same thing. So this is now actually going to do it by 1 second because I've got it at 1000 milliseconds. This is still going at 2 seconds. Let's say that I wanted it something strange. So let's say 4 seconds first. So that's actually how you would normally use it with something like a percussion module. But what if I wanted to use this with a sequencer, for instance? So I'll take a couple of those modules out. I'll take the all of this out. I want to keep my ADSR and I want to keep my LFO, and I'll do a left align to drag it all to the left, and I'll take a sequencer. Where am I? There's my sequencer. I'll put this in between, and I'll put a VCO in between, because now I'm this will still be the sort of the final setup, because I only need to put a VCO in there, which will be driven by the sequencer, while the sequencer itself will be driven by time, and so on. So I'll take my VCO in between. I'll put it in front of my ADSR because the VCO is going into VCF, while the ADSR will be driving my VCF, and that's going into the panner, and so on. So if I take my output of my VCO, put that into the input, this is going to be driven, and yeah, it's actually still going to function because it's running off this second time module. So let's take this back a notch and put this on. It's actually still there just as a normal VCO, so you could use that as a baseline, for instance. But obviously I also want to use sequences to do this kind of stuff, and let's just take this out first and just create normal sequence. So I'm going to take the pitch out of my sequencer and I'm going to put that into my external input of my VCO, and that means that I have to have this switched on, otherwise it won't respond to that. It's just to make you more visible, and that if you don't want to use that external signal, you just switch it off, or you could obviously take the signal out, but otherwise I find it easy for myself to just see that I have a cable selected and I'm using it, that I keep the light on. So I've got my sequence and I've got my envelope setting, my gate that is taking out of this, which I'm going to create an envelope with by putting it into the ADSR, and the ADSR is driving my filter on the envelope input, and so on. So that means that as soon as I start this, it's going to drive the a sequence. And let's take this back, because actually the ADSR was too long, so it almost sounds like having one voice or one sound in there, one pitch in there. But actually it's 8 different notes, and I could have up to 16 steps, as you might be aware of. But just let's keep it at 8 for now. And that means that I could put a sequence in there. I could even start, for instance, with 2 steps, because that's the minimum that it takes. And let's turn the speed down a bit. So I've got a sequence, just a couple of notes, and I could put a speed on, and I'll just keep it like this, and turn this down, make it a bit more just a punch for the gate, and then dial the sustain back a bit, because that's the level at which it stays. So now it's running at its local, at its normal standard tempo, and I could actually, instead of using this as normal tempo, I had a gate in, and the gate in defines how long it takes before it's going to the next step. So if I take this in, it's actually waiting for a second now, because I have it connected to my millisec output, and this defines how long it's going to take before going to the next step for the sequence. So I could use that, and I could speed that up, of course. And at a certain point, it will be a bit of a mess, and it might not. And if I dial it all the way back, it's at too low a speed. 50 is not recognized, so then it will stop. But from that, it's going up, and you can dial in the speed that you want. So, but the other thing is that I might want to use this sequence not to run all of the time, but maybe just once every so many seconds. So that means that if I would set something here and say that I set a speed of 250, let's say 120. So that's the normal speed in the number of beats per second. And I'll take this, so this is the speed actually. And if I take this in, it's going to run at this pace, right? But now if I take the seconds out and I'm pressing my ones key, it's actually waiting for this gate to happen, and then it will run through that sequence once. So I can use this as sort of a background, and then, yeah, try to work with that in sort of a background for everything. So I could easily create a next sequence by copying this part over and then doing it at a different speed, and maybe after a longer time, say I could even do it after 13 seconds if for any case, or for any kind of music I would want to use that. So you will see that after that time it is indeed running that sequence for now. So you could actually try and have sort of a combination of this kind of thing, because if I take this and take another sequence that is running, or it's changing the pitch of this sequence, you can actually have it after a couple of seconds go up a couple of steps, a couple of semi-notes, and then use the first sequence to drive another, and so on and so on. So that way you can create very, very complex kind of sequences. I'm not quite sure if I created one already. Let's see what this is. Let's see, it's not that audible, I guess. Here I've got a couple of those sequences that are interconnected. This one is not doing anything, so I can take that one out. But I've got two of those sequences connected to connected to the time module. One is connecting this, while let's see, this one is taking the sequence gate out of the pause. So this one is driving the sequence itself, creating a once run sequence on this, and the other one, let's switch it off. So normally I've got this, and this is actually taking the other sequence out, using the pause to drive that. So that's why it's taking the gate pulse to run this at a different setting, so to speak. So you can really do this is more elaborate, as you can hear, with a couple of sequences in there. So the time is running a sequencer. The next to that is run as well. This one is run, and all of them do something in this. And I should have documented exactly what I was doing, but I'll do that in the next video, where I'll create a patch like this and create some of those Berlin kind of music again by using a couple of those sequencers. But at least I hope that gives you an idea of what this can do and what you can use those time thing modules for. It gives you some sort of extra way of keeping at a specific schedule. Obviously, it is because it's really seconds and minutes and milliseconds. It's harder to get times that are in between, so to speak. But if you want to keep it at seconds specifically, then you could do that. And actually, it's still possible. I mean, if I take my demo that I just did, if I take that in, if I instead would want to take this into to the output here, it will actually take and I'll take some of the other ones out, because now actually the this time the pause is still dependent of the original gate, but now the actual time is what do I have set here? This one is set to 1 second. This one is to half a second. So on this output, it will be 1.5 seconds. So if I would take this up to 3 and something in between, say here, I could get something like 4.5 seconds or something like that. Or 3 seconds and 400 milliseconds. Maybe you'll test it, and I hope that it's obvious that it does that. But so in that case, you can create different kinds of times that you wanted, and obviously you could set the same kinds of times on the other ones, or maybe double them, and and work with that. And so the main thing is just wherever you need a gate at a specific time, you can just put that in. So if you want the gate to be happening after 3 minutes and 20 seconds, I could actually just put this to naught and put this up to 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and 3 minutes, come on, and this to 20 seconds, and take this output in any case, and then after that 3 minutes and 20 seconds, it will exactly give that gate and give you that trigger for whatever you want to start. So especially when using that with sequencers and stuff like that, that you want to be starting at a specific point. Obviously there's other ways to do that kind of thing. I mean, you could also have taken some gate input and or a key that you want to take off your keyboard, and with that specific key trigger anything that you want to, like starting a sequencer. But this is a timed thing, so that can be easy to work with. So I hope it at least gives you some idea of what time can do for you. And if you have the bundle, it will be added to the bundle automatically once it's approved by Cherry Audio. And otherwise, just if you don't have the bundle yet, try a demo and see if it could work for you. So I hope that works, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers. Bye bye.